This video we're going to build the monkey, but before we get started I want to start with the coding. I want to show you some modifications that I made to the build, but first of all I want to actually show you a very important part of the build that when you're instructing the young students is very important. That part would be, and let me make sure you get it here, you see on this piece right here that goes from these two cams to these two cams. This is step 14 of the build, and as you build it they're going to tell you to get a long black piece and then put these two cams on, then put this red piece on, then put this gray stopper piece here, and then another one on top of it. The trick is getting this gear here facing in the right direction. The gear teeth should point down according to the build, and so make sure that you use this gear, the one that has the I guess directional teeth on it, and these teeth point down, and then there's another stopper here, and then a red piece, and then two cams. But the key is to make this point down. The reason is that if you look at it from this side, make sure you can see it here, they have to point down so that this gear can mesh with this gear that's coming out of the motor, and so make sure that's done on your build. All right. The other thing I want to point out is I've done a modification past the steps that are in the instruction manual, and I've added the tilt sensor. The tilt sensor is not in the original build. I found this online and I incorporated it in the build because I think it adds a cool thing a little bit later, and I'll talk about it later. But the tilt sensor is placed at the back end of one of the arms. So you can see here I've got it flush with the back here, and then half of it is used to connect to the back end of one of the arms, and then I connect the wire to the control block, just like I connect the motor wire to the control block. Okay, so that's the build. There was a couple of notes about the build, and then now we're going to look at the code. Now on to coding the monkey. Gonna do two sets of code. The first, we're just gonna make the monkey move, and then the second, we're gonna add sound. So with the first set, we're gonna come in here, grab an event when it's clicked. Now here we're going to begin to introduce variables. So this whole thing, we're going to introduce this notion of variables, and the way I explain variables to especially young children is it's like it's a place to keep something. It's naming a storage bin, a P.O. box, a cubby. I guess that'd be the most relative to third graders, is it's naming a cubby. And so we're going to have to put a number in a cubby, and we're going to refer to it by the cubby's name. And so here we can actually make a variable. I've already done it here, but let me make another one here just to help you out. So ignore this one called motor power, and let's make a variable called power, P-O-W-E-R. In fact, to make it easy on typing, just all lowercase for the kids, and hit OK. And you can see it's created a variable here called power. And you notice also, because there's this little check mark here, it shows up in the it shows up over here in the cat window, and so it'll give you an idea of how much the power is, and it's going to be a percentage from 0 to 100. So now that I have the variable named power, I'm going to set the value of that variable. So this is like saying power equal, and I'm going to put a value in that cubby named power, if you will, and I'm going to put the value 30. And this is sort of random. It's just to start off power, so that when you click the flag, you can actually see the monkey begin to move. And so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back over here to my more blocks. And keep in mind, if the blocks aren't here, you go to add an extension and click WeDo, Lego WeDo, and that will make these blocks show up. And if everything's connected right, then you should have a green, this green button should be here. Close that. Okay, so now what I want to do is set the power of the motor. So I've set the variable call power to value 30, and now I want to set the motor to the variable value. So I grab set motor power 2, And then instead of putting 100 here, I actually want to put the variable power. And so I go back to data, grab the variable, and then and drag it over the place where I would normally type a number, and I drop it in there. And so now when I click the green flag, it's going to set the variable. It's going to put the number 30 into the cubby named power, and then it's going to set the motor to the value that's inside that cubby. Now, this is a way to introduce variables. I know that I could have just set the motor value to 30 directly, but when we get to this next part, it's going to matter a bit. Okay, but just to watch it go, if I click on the green flag, you can see my monkey begin to drum. Also, I didn't mention this in the first part. I just made these two little drums, if you will, out of some duct tape and half a toilet paper roll. So what I would do with the kids, if you wanted to get into the arts and crafts, is these are each about 1 and 3/4 inches high. So if you got some strips of paper, if you took a strip of paper that maybe is 5 or 6 inches long and cut it 1 and 3/4 width, and you can wrap it up and make some cylinders and have the monkey beat on that, or they can use anything in the room. 1 and 3/4 is about the distance between the table and the bottommost position of the arms. And so now it looks like my monkey is steadily beating the drums here. And let me see if I can position this just a little bit better so you can see it here. Okay, so you got my monkey beating the drums here. There you go. Well, it keeps twisting, but you get the idea. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to hit stop here. So that's good enough, but I wanted to give the students the ability to change the speed sort of on the fly, if you will. And so as you change the speed, you can have them as a matter of exercise change this number from 30, I don't know, to 70. You can go from 0 to 100, and they can watch. If I click this, you can see the monkeys beating the drums a little bit faster. Okay, so I hit stop. But I wanted to further explore this idea of using variables with them, and they may not grasp the concept completely, but they'll get the idea over time. But I wanted to give them the ability to change the power value on the fly, if you will, while the monkey is beating the drum. So to do that, I'm going to get an event here, when space, and I'm not going to use the space. I'm going to use when the up arrow is pressed. I'm going to go back to the data, and I want to change the value of power that's in the cubby, and I want to change it by 10. So every time I hit the up arrow key, the value of the number inside the cubby, or the variable known as power, is going to increase by 10, right? And then I want to go back and do the same thing I did before. I want to set the motor power to the variable power. And now when you hit the up arrow, every time you hit the up arrow, the power is going to change by 10, and I'm going to set the motor power to that power, so you're going to see an increase. Okay, and I want to do likewise. When I hit the down arrow, I want to see a decrease, so I'm going to right click on this and hit duplicate, and then now I'm going to change the up arrow portion. Oops, I clicked it. I'm going to change the up arrow portion here to down arrow, and then instead of adding 10, I'm going to subtract 10. And I think that's the best way to describe negative numbers to them, is just to say that every time you click the down arrow, you're going to subtract 10 from the value of for the number that's in the cubby, or the variable known as power. And then we're going to set the motor to that power there. So now when I click the flag, it starts going. Whoops. Let's take this back. I guess I don't have to. Let's leave it at 70 here. Now if I go down, you can see the number for power over here is changing as well as I click the down key. Right? And it goes down. You can see the monkey slowing down with his beating of the drums. And then as I go up, right, and once I get to 100, then it won't get any faster because it's percentage. The number will go to 110, but it won't get any faster than 100. And if I go down below 0, -10, doesn't really matter either. But so now this is how the students can control the speed of the monkey. Okay? Next up, we're going to put some sound to it using the tilt sensor. Next up, we're going to modify the code a bit so we can add some sound, and this was when we're going to utilize the tilt sensor. And so really quickly, just to look at the tilt sensor from the side here, uh, when it's in this position, when it's up, I don't know, that's like a 30-degree angle, I guess, 30-ish. When it's up at this angle, this is going to give us a sensor value of 3, and when it's down parallel to the table, it's going to give us a sensor value of 0. And so we're going to use those values to indicate when this arm is up and when the other arm is down. So when the sensor value is 3, because these cams here are set at 90 degrees apart, when this one's at 3, this arm, the opposite arm, is going to be down. And then when this one's at 0, this arm is going to be down. And so what we want to do is create a sound on each one of those event occurrences. And so that's what we're going to do next, so that the monkey will actually play some sound. So this is going to introduce this idea, and what's actually happening is you're actually doing things in parallel, but it's going to create this idea and introduce this idea of broadcasting, of event broadcasting. And so that actually is sort of important when you're programming in Scratch. And so we're going to come here to the events block, and we're going to create an event, right? And this event, you can go in here, you grab the broadcast message, and so once it's clicked, you want to broadcast a message out to everything in the program. And the message we want to send, let's go for a new message here, and we're going to call this we're going to call it START, start, and I'm going to use a capital DRUMMING, start drumming. You can use something shorter if you want to for the kids to type it, because I know sometimes they have a hard time typing. But I hit OK, and so you can see broadcast start drumming. So when I click the green flag, the power is going to be set to 70. The motor is going to be set in motion to the value of power, and then it's going to broadcast out this event that I've started drumming. And that would be the end of it, and nothing would happen unless I did something based on that event. And so when you then come over here and do another control that says when it receives the event, and you click on the arrow here, and I've got an event called start drumming. When I receive the start drumming event, I want to do something, right? And what I want to do, well, while the thing is running, or in this case forever, I'm going to wait until, and then I'll go to an operator, and I'm going to grab the comparison. This will make more sense once I finish it. I'm going to wait until, and go back to the blocks. I'm going to wait until the tilt value is equal to, I'm going to put in the number 3 here. So, and the reason we're doing this and sort of creating this event over here is that we don't want it to interrupt what's going on over here in these two blocks. But we sort of want to run this as a parallel process. So this is actually a little bit of parallel programming going on here at a very young age. But when they receive the start drumming event, and you're waiting for this forever, you're going to wait until the tilt equals 3. And when the tilt equals 3, we're going to play a sound. Okay? And so the sound we're going to play, you're going to go into sounds, and if you go into percussions, they have a sound called, we're going to go with the tom drum. So when one hand comes down, when one of the monkey's arms comes down, we're going to play the tom drum. And then I want to also go back into percussions here, and I want to get the cymbal crash. And they can choose whatever sounds they want, but as a matter of instruction, we do these sounds, and then if you want to let them loose to do their sounds, then that's fine. So now I want to go over here to sound, and I'm going to play sound, and this time, so I want to play the cymbal crash when the tilt equals 3. That's when one of the arms is down. Now I want to do the same thing, so I'm going to duplicate those blocks and then stick them in here. And then when the tilt equals 0, I want to change the sound to the tom drum. Okay? So now I'm going to turn my volume up here a little bit on my computer, so hopefully you can hear it. So now when I start, whoops, whoa, that's way too much. So now you can hear the cymbal and the drum playing every time they do it, and then as I control the speed, his rhythm will slow down as the speed goes up and down. And you can have the students play with that. And then make sure they hit stop so you don't have to deal with the noise too much. But this has introduced variables. It's also introduced this notion of broadcasting an event. And so we'll use that. And so that's the build and that's the programming. Good luck and happy teaching.